Bible history and fossils. A friend of mine at work, he asked me one time, well, since you believe in the Bible, where do you put fossils? And I said, well, fossils are just a record of animals that have lived. Everybody knows that. And that they die, they get crushed, and they're preserved. And he goes, yeah, I know how fossils are made. Everybody knows how fossils are made. Well, a lot of people know how fossils are made. And then I says, well, we know that oil, and that is just what happens when you compress organic matter. It's just carbon. He goes, yeah, I know that. So we've got all these things under the earth that are just smashed over once living creatures. He goes, yeah, I know that. And I said, well, from a biblical point of view, because I believe when Jesus said, in the beginning, he made them male and he made them female, that the fossil record had to be made sometime after the beginning. He says, well, how do you get that? And I said, well, everybody knows that fossils, oil, even diamonds, just a matter of compressed, preserved remains of animals, carbon and stuff like that. He goes, yeah. I said, so I am a child of my parents. I had a mother and a father, and each of my parents had a mother and a father, and it goes back to the time of Noah. And everybody knows this is part of the Christian faith. And he was just politely listening. And I said, and Jesus said, as it was in the days of Noah. So Jesus talks about the beginning, and Jesus talks about Noah. So we're all children of Noah, right? Noah and his wife had 3 sons. They had wives, and they all had children, and hence all of the people who are alive today came through Noah. And from the biblical Christian account, then you have from Noah we go back to Adam and Eve, which Jesus Christ said in the beginning he made the male and female. It's simple. He goes, yeah, but where did the fossils come from, Dale? And I was like, well, if animals are alive today, from a Christian point of view, they had to be on Noah's Ark, right? He goes, yeah. So, the little sheep, little sheep here, the little alligator, well, maybe not the alligator, because the alligator could swim. Maybe so. How about the koala bear that my grandma made for me up here, That is actually a koala bear on a very old lamp. It still works. Great technology. So all these animals that were alive today were on Noah's Ark, or at least their parents were on Noah's Ark. He goes, yeah, I can follow that. Well, of course, you can see Adam and Eve then, holding a koala bear or a red panda, or a dragonfly, a cockroach. Well, maybe not playing with a cockroach, but you can see. He goes, yeah, okay, I can see all these things that they're alive today. They had to be on Noah's Ark, based in the Christian faith. Of course, this is based in the Christian faith. And he's waiting for me to get into the science of it. And I'm like, well, I'm getting there, Kevin. So we don't have lions in North America anymore. But they've actually dug up the remains of lions that had lived at one time in North America. There's still lions in Africa. Just like they dug up the fossilized remains of red pandas in the United States. And we still have red pandas living in China. Like, oh, okay. So if red pandas were with us today, and they were on the Ark, and you can see them in the Garden of Eden, or their parent type of panda, well then, when did they get fossilized? He's like, oh, that makes sense. They got fossilized sometimes after Adam and Eve, right? Sometime between today and when Jesus said the beginning was. That's based on faith in Jesus and what Jesus taught. That makes sense, right? And everything else that is alive today that's in the fossil record, and you can find it on Wapika. This is called living fossils. Everybody knows what they are. Well, a lot of people know what they are. There's bacteria and plants, like the ginkgo tree, or the aardvark, or the Laotian rock rat, or you name it. It might have been fossilized. Opossums. The red panda was fossilized. The opossums were fat. Shrews, Laotian rock rat. Oh, well, there's this one thing that almost looks like a giraffe. Four legs. It's where is that? Okapia. There's all sorts of things that were fossilized. They're in the fossil record, and they're alive today. So we know from the Christian point of view, those specific animals weren't on the Ark. The animal that got fossilized wasn't on the Ark. Maybe his brother or sister was on the Ark, but they weren't on the Ark. Or they lived before the Ark, or they lived after the Ark, but that's when the fossil record was made. Sometime after Adam and Eve, and before today. Well, if all these animals that were in the fossil records also coexisted with us, then there were humans alive when the fossil record was made. And if there were humans alive when the fossil record was made, there was humans that were at least alive on the planet at the same time other things were fossilized. And now, we have these lists. Actually, it's a book. They Lived with Dinosaurs by Russell Friedman. It's a whole list of various creatures like crustaceans, starfish, coelacanths, sturgeons, lungfish, sharks, rays. Ooh, there's the cockroach. Oh, and dragonflies. Oh, there's a mosquito. Oh wait, now there's dinosaurs. Or animals that lived with dinosaurs. That we call some people call them prehistoric. But wait a minute. The tartula. They all live with us. Turtles. Alligators, crocodiles. Right? Grebes, birds. Birds lived with dinosaurs. Opossums. So we have this record. We have living fossils, what some people call them. And you've already figured it out then, right? If they all lived with dinosaurs, then when did dinosaurs live? They're part of the fossil record. Sometime after Adam and Eve, right, were created in the beginning. Those specific ones didn't make it on the ark. Like, you know, lots of human beings didn't make it on the ark too. Could dinosaurs still be alive today? Oh, possibly. You know? Maybe not one as big as this one. But then again, there's places on the earth that... Actually, if you understand this in perspective, T-Rex, and this guy's just a little bit bigger than T-Rex, right? If you understand T-Rex and this other new dinosaur, height 11 feet. 11 feet. It's from the ground to their top point here is only 11 feet. We have basketball players that are 7 feet tall. So your basketball player is going to fit in there. 7 feet tall, right? 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. He's only a meter higher than a 7 foot, 3 feet tall basketball player. Stick that basketball player on top of a quarter horse or a draft horse, you know, something that's already standing 5 feet tall. A guy with a lance or a sword, just as tall as even taller, might even be stabbing down at a T-Rex. So you read the biblical account of all the various animals. I got this other book here. Books are great. All little children should get their own books. Be their own scientists. Research, you know. Compare all the books together. Compare the Bible with your dinosaur books in your Bible. It's got a list of many of the animals that are listed in the Bible. Including the wolf and the dog. They're both canine. Easily fit on Noah's Ark, right? It's just all pretty straightforward then. And Kevin said, well, yeah, logically makes sense. I mean, people are going to argue because, you know, people have authority and jobs to protect and, you know, reputations to protect and all of that kind of stuff. But logically, you can't fault it. Not if you use and believe what Jesus said. That in the beginning, he made them male and he made them female. And we know who they were, Adam and Eve. From a biblical point of view, that's a matter of the Christian faith. Actually, it's a matter of the Jewish faith, too, because the book of Genesis is in the Tanakh. And there's other religions that don't disagree with that either. So where are the fossils? When were they made? Oh, sometime between Adam and now. Because we have creatures that were alive today, that we know were created when Adam and Eve were created, before Adam and Eve created. And we know by association then that these creatures lived with dinosaurs. Maybe they didn't live in the same place at the same time, like I don't have to walk outside and worry about African lions. I don't even have to worry about pumas anymore, or cougars. or buffalo. Because, see, human beings, Americans, have slaughtered the buffalo so that they don't walk around Wisconsin anymore. And we killed off the big cats, and we shot most of the wolves, although we have a few wolves up north, and they shot off most of the moose. And, just as a matter of fact, human beings have this hunger and this desire and this pride. Sometimes they just kill off anything that's competition. So when were the fossils made? Well, that's already answered. When did dinosaurs live? Well, they're in the fossil record, right along there with the red panda, the cockroach, and the dragonfly. So just like African lions are still alive today, but I'm not near them, it's logical to say then that dinosaurs lived at the same time as human beings did. Maybe not in the same place. It's just logical and straightforward. If you use and believe the words of Jesus Christ and what he said is true about the beginning. It's just straightforward. So where'd all the people go? Well, like the dinosaurs, they become oil. Or they become coal, because you can squeeze coal enough and you get oil. Or, guess what else they could have become? I'm going for another book. Fundamentals of Thermodynamics. Had to buy it when I was at UWM, working on my 4-year degree in electrical engineering. And on page 621, this is Fundamentals of Thermodynamics, 6th edition. Sontag, Van Wieland, and Bordnacki. It talks about, well, actually, it's all the formulas. And you can look it up too, of how graphite, which is a form of carbon, can be turned into diamonds. And we make diamonds today. And they can make your loved one into diamonds, or your cat into diamonds. So, what didn't make it on the ark? Fossils, oil, coal, diamonds, right? Lots of pressure. Things suddenly getting buried. It all logically makes sense. It all scientifically makes sense too. I mean, the math works. I mean, I've studied it. I've done some of the math. It's like, yeah, all the math works. All the science works. All you have to do is believe Jesus. In the beginning, he made them male and he made them female. 2 became 1 and produced many more. And then there was this guy named Noah who had a wife and 3 sons, Shem, Ham, and Japheth. All you do is have to believe Jesus as your benchmark for history. And once you've believed Jesus, then you're like, oh, well, I'll go read what Genesis said. Oh, yeah, that's right. And you can read about Noah. And once you start with Jesus as your starting point, then you can do the math. You can do the science. I mean, the scientists have proven it. The engineers, we work with that stuff all the time. These are the natural laws. I mean, if you're not ashamed of what Jesus said, and what Jesus said the history of the earth is, then you can account for all of the fossils. You can account for all the oil. You can account for all the coal. If you put Jesus first, if you believe Jesus. And so, I believe Jesus. That pretty much sums it up. And if somebody comes along with their math and this and this and this and that, I'm like, yeah, right, okay. I'll get out my math books too. I'll get out my books on thermodynamics, and I'll get out all my other books that I've studied, and I know the science and I know the math, and I've heard the people talk about it. And we can demonstrate it. Because you can make a diamond. Time doesn't matter. Actually, if you look at the formula, and all the parents should take this stuff and show it to their children. See, this is how the math works. It's not that difficult. There was a time when parents were teaching their children a lot of stuff. You didn't have to leave it up to other people. And if the parents do a little bit of research, take this as a point to Jesus, listen to what Jesus says, go look at some of the math. Go look at what the historical evidence is if you put Jesus first. He did say he was the beginning, right? Actually, his servant John said that he was in the beginning. In fact, that he is the creator. So if you start with a Christian faith, it just all makes sense. And if somebody comes along and says, well, it takes millions and billions of years, you can just say, hey, look, I can go hire this firm, and you can look it up on the web, to turn my dead dog into a diamond in a matter of a week or so. So why are you saying it absolutely takes 1,000,000 years to make a diamond? And that's the hardest thing on earth, right? No, actually, there's other forms of diamond. Daylight, I think, is one of them. Just, if you put Jesus first, all of the math, all of the science, it just all fits. It works really well. And if people want to argue without Jesus, well, then it's like, well, argue whatever you want then. Jesus said he's the beginning and the end. He's the author. Outside of faith in that, well, reason whatever you want, but you can't deny the science that says I can make a diamond almost instantaneously. I've got the math formula, so you can't tell me it takes millions of years as an absolute. It's not an absolute. Look at the math. Time doesn't matter. And if time doesn't matter in making a diamond, then time doesn't matter in making coal, and time doesn't matter in making oil. In fact, we do those things. And if the hardest things on earth can be made in a short period of time, then what about the rest of it? Well, actually, I looked at the science, so thank God I started out with Jesus, though, as the one who sets the benchmarks and tells me what history is. And so I don't debate it anymore. I used to debate it over the years. This is what I believe. If you want to reason without Jesus, well, hey, you don't have a beginning and an end, so that's where you're at. Can't do anything about that. I mean, actually, in engineering, if a person doesn't have limits and boundaries, well, hey, you can reason whatever you want. Go ahead. They write books about it. That's just a scale model of the ark.